Welcome to the Healthy Skin Show with Jennifer Fugo, where we're flipping everything you've been told about your chronic skin issues upside down and connecting you with alternative solutions your dermatologist never told you about.
Welcome back to episode number 89 of the Healthy Skin Show. In today's episode, I want to talk about how to overcome food fear, specifically around foods triggering your skin rashes when you've eliminated them due to what can end up being very restrictive elimination diets. I recognize that there are actual elimination diets for eczema, for psoriasis, and there are also other types of autoimmune elimination diets or protocols out there that people will follow as well as recommend to their fellow skin rash warriors in order to address their skin issues. While the recommendation and use of these diets is well-intentioned, there can be a serious drawback. I want to talk about that today first because unless we understand how this happened, it's very difficult to understand how to undo this process. So allow me to illustrate this story with one of the many client stories that I have personally witnessed. I worked with one woman who had developed a lot of skin issues. And at some point, she decided to go on a fairly popular autoimmune type elimination diet because it was recommended to her by so many people online, and she figured it couldn't hurt. So she initially did this elimination diet and saw a huge improvement. And then, of course, with time, was unable to sustain the diet because, again, they're usually not all that practical for most people living in the real world, and backslid. Eventually, all of her symptoms came back, and she felt even worse. So again, she went back on that elimination diet, except this time, she didn't get better. If anything, she got worse. And so little by little, she started taking out more and more foods, making that elimination diet, which was already fairly restrictive, even smaller and less diverse. To the point that by the time we sat down to talk, she was only eating 5 foods every single day. She felt horrible, was super exhausted, had put on lots of weight, and had no idea what on earth she could do, and really struggled with the idea of adding foods back in anytime I mentioned it. Her big objection was that it would flare her skin, and she would rather stay almost stuck in this awful experience that she was having than risk having a skin flare. But to be fair, her skin wasn't doing all that great to begin with. This is a very common theme that I see in my practice. It's a very common theme that I see in Facebook groups of people who have bought into the idea that the only thing that they can control after giving up at the doctor's office is diet. And that is a very dangerous and short-sighted idea. And I am very sorry for anyone who has read all of these diet books thinking that that's all you can control. Because it's my hope that by the end of this episode, you will understand that there is a lot more that you can control than just food. Because the book industry has focused so much on empowering people around these different elimination diets, it has inadvertently misled people to believe that the thing that will fix their skin is likely going to be food. So that's the natural enemy here. But think about it for a second. How awful is it that we are turning people against nourishment? We're not encouraging them to seek out root causes of what's actually triggering their skin problems. Instead, we're creating an enemy out of something that is so deeply personal and important for our own well-being. I'm not saying that there isn't a time and a place for an elimination diet, but most are being done inappropriately. Either recommended for too long of a period or too restrictive without the guidance of a professional who can ensure that you're getting the proper amount of nutrients, because biodiversity in your diet and in your food is critical to your health as well as to the health and diversity of your gut flora. So if you've been considering doing an elimination diet, you might want to think twice about doing that. But what if you're in the other camp and you've been on one for a really long time and you are literally afraid to add foods back into your diet for fear that they're going to trigger a flare? Before I answer this question, I want you to know that I do know personally what it's like to live with food fear. Back in 2008, I ate egg salad. Might not seem like a big deal, but it was eggs and mayo made from chicken eggs. And I got so sick from eating that food that I felt like I was having a heart attack, and I almost drove myself to the hospital. Fortunately, I had the foresight to know that I should just go home, and I got violently ill in the bathroom. I did not have food poisoning, by the way. It turned out that I had a very severe reaction to chicken eggs. And from that moment forward, I was deathly afraid to ever have chicken eggs again. In 2014, I met Dr. Terry Wahls. And for those of you who know her work in the MS community is amazing. And after hearing my drama with food, Dr. Wahls recommended that I try duck eggs. It took me 5 years to get the courage to try duck eggs. 5 years. The first time I tried a duck egg was magical. I was so nervous that I was going to get sick, and when I didn't, and I realized that I could have duck eggs without consequence, I was such a happy camper. So I share this story not to brag by any stretch of the imagination. It's duck eggs. It's not a big deal. But it can be to some who really miss having eggs in their diet, like myself. But I want you to understand that I know what it's like to be afraid of food. So the fear that you feel around food is very real. But here's the thing. What if it's not about the food that you're eating that's triggering a flare, but instead what happens to the food when it interacts with your gut function and your microbiome? Take a moment to let that sink in, because that's the missing piece to this equation that we oftentimes don't get when we're reading these diet books or someone's recommending an elimination diet online. What if it's not the food, but what happens to that food as a result of something else within you, where the food interacts with a root cause problem that drives inflammation and triggers your skin? Because taking out too much food can have a negative impact on your body. It can cause you to become nutrient depleted. It can cause you to become socially unhappy. And some have argued that it can actually cause loss of oral tolerance to food, essentially meaning that your body does really start to react to all of these different foods as a result of eliminating them from your diet unnecessarily. Now, I recognize what you might say. Jen, look, I had a food sensitivity test done, and it came back with like 25 things on it that I can't eat. Here's the thing. Food sensitivity testing can be all over the place. They are highly inaccurate no matter what lab you get them through, and they can shift and change based on how permeable or leaky your gut is at any given time. An additional problem is that you can have false negatives. And for anyone who's had some sort of food sensitivity test done on a snip of their hair, that's not accurate at all. Save your money and don't even bother with that type of testing. And even if you did get a food sensitivity test run and some of it is accurate for what's going on in your body right now, the problem is most people have no experience understanding how to utilize that information and restrict too many items on the test that are unnecessary to remove because they think that everything that gets flagged on that test, even quote unquote mild reactions, must be eliminated. And that is simply not true. My recommendations here is to take a step back from the whole idea of eliminating foods and start to think about why you removed the foods in the first place. Was it something that you personally noticed that was triggering an issue? And did you see an actual improvement when you removed that food? Or was it a food that a doctor told you to remove? Or a nutritionist or dietitian that you were working with? Or was this simply the recommendation of some random person that chatted with you online, who unfortunately doesn't know you at all? If you've seen no real improvement from removing certain foods, then those would probably be the foods to begin adding back in. I would recommend adding one food in at a time over the course of 3 to 4 days, so giving some space between each food so you can tell whether you're having a reaction to it or not. You may also want to try more low FODMAP foods first. So instead of going for beans, for example, maybe you stick with some non-starchy vegetables instead. If you seem to react to animal protein sources or don't really crave animal protein sources, I would highly recommend that you do the low stomach acid test, which I'll link to in the show notes for this episode. It is highly common that when clients say anything like my skin got better after I took meat out, or I just don't crave it, I only eat very little portions, I just don't seem to want it, it's typically because they don't have enough stomach acid to break it down. If you aren't producing enough stomach acid, then getting the appropriate digestive aid. That does not mean just digestive enzymes, folks. Digestive enzymes are not stomach acid, and they can't replace stomach acid if you don't have enough of it. So finding the right digestive aid may be very, very helpful. I'd also suggest avoiding foods that are really super processed and have a laundry list of ingredients. So if you're used to eating a highly refined, processed, junk food-filled diet, it's time to let that go and start embracing a real food diet that has lots of different colors and nutrients available in it for your body. And last but not least, and I say this with love, you might actually need help. You may need to work with someone, like a nutritionist or a dietitian, that can help you sort through this. Because disordered eating is real. That's what this is. Orthorexia is a form of disordered eating that is so incredibly prevalent now in the chronic illness community as a result of overemphasizing and over-pushing elimination diets as this only solution available to you. I've found that many of the clients whom I work with who come to me with this food fear discover that it wasn't the food that was really causing the problem. It was other root causes under the surface, some of which I've discussed here. One person in particular had said to me that he thought it was really crazy that he was able to eat all of these foods because for so long he had bought into the idea that it was the foods that were making him sick and flaring his skin, when in reality, there were so many other things going on underneath that the food became an innocent bystander that took the brunt of the blame. Please remember that there are 16 different root causes that can trigger skin problems. So that means that you have way more control over this whole skin rash puzzle of yours than you think. Food is not the only facet of the conversation that you should focus on. It's certainly an important one. I'm not saying it isn't, but it can't be, and it isn't just the only piece of the puzzle. Now, of course, it's a totally different matter if you have a legitimate food allergy or some sort of intolerance like lactose intolerance or histamine intolerance where your body doesn't make a specific enzyme to break down a particular food. But oftentimes that's not what people are talking about. We use the words intolerance and sensitivity interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. So if you've just been eliminating foods because someone said you may be sensitive to them or you had a food panel run that says you're sensitive to these items, that's likely a food sensitivity test and therefore a food sensitivity. A legit allergy is something that you should absolutely avoid. And if you have any interest in reintroducing, you need to discuss that with your doctor since there can be potentially life-threatening consequences to consuming and exposing yourself to an allergen. So is there hope in getting over your food fear and finally incorporating more foods into your diet? Heck yeah! There totally is. It often doesn't happen overnight. It takes some patience. But if you really find that you're stuck, get some help. I assure you, many of us who work with clients every single day who end up with food fear as a result of elimination diets would love to support you around this, including myself. I'll link up a bunch of different resources for you to check out over in the show notes over at skinterrupt.com/089. And if you've got any questions or an experience you'd love to share, head on over there and leave your comments so that we can keep the conversation going. And you know what to do. Head on over to your podcast platform of choice, rate and review the podcast, and make sure to hit the subscribe button. That way, the next episode just lands on your mobile device so you don't even have to do a thing. You just got to tune in. And last but not least, if you know that someone is really struggling with food, they've got a lot of food fear, they don't know what to do, please share this episode with them. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.